Hi, welcome to the Alcohol-Free Lifestyle podcast. Thank you for joining me. My name is Sarah Connelly and I'm a coach in the Alcohol-Free Lifestyle program. I'm going to be talking today in this episode about a subject that has affected me personally and many of my clients, and it's the topic of alcohol and how it impacts our mental health. In my own experience, I struggled with depression on and off throughout my adult life. It was an unpredictable beast in that I never knew when it was going to rear its head, but it was predictable in the fact that it always did. I also suffered anxiety, but I didn't really know that that was a thing because I think every time I felt anxious, I would just drink it away. Over time, my drinking escalated, and so did my mental health issues. So in this episode, I'll talk about how alcohol can be the cause of mental health issues. It can also be a result of mental health issues, but ultimately, alcohol is the medicine that we use to try and resolve the issues that it creates. Today in society, we have so many people that are turning to alcohol as a way to relax and unwind. It's the go-to substance for any occasion, whether it be to relax and wind down or to celebrate a special occasion. But it's now common knowledge through recent research that there is no amount of alcohol that's good for us. And we know that drinking can have very serious effects on both our physical and mental well-being. The complex relationship between alcohol and mental health, including the effects of alcohol on the brain chemistry, the link between drinking, depression and anxiety, and the importance of seeking help if drinking is affecting your mental health, is what I'll be talking about today. As a former exuberant drinker, it took me quite a while to make the connection between my depression and anxiety and my drinking. For a long time, I believed alcohol was my only source of relief, and it was always there to help me when I was feeling down or overwhelmed. But once I realised that this medicine that I was using was actually the poison creating or at least exacerbating these issues, it provided a huge incentive for me to try life without it. Once I realised that removing alcohol would free me from this cycle of unpredictable highs and lows, I decided to leave it behind once and for all. As a result, I have left many of my mental health issues behind me as well. As you may know, alcohol works as a depressant on our central nervous system, and this has both short and long-term effects on our mental health. In the short term, it can lead to our judgment being impaired, our inhibitions being lowered, and even blackouts. Towards the end of my drinking days, I was regularly experiencing times when I had no recollection of what had happened the night before. That also fueled anxiety, stress, disappointment in myself, and just feeling completely out of control. In the long term, excessive drinking leads to a range of mental health problems and ultimately can lead to full-blown substance use disorder. No matter who you are, anyone can develop a dependency on alcohol if they drink enough of it. And there are, of course, certain factors that can increase the likelihood of this. Those being family history of substance use disorder, mental illness, and of course, high stress levels. High stress is endemic in our society, and so many people live in that constant state of fight-flight, where they're struggling with the stresses of work, potentially financial concerns, stresses at home with family, living in this constant state of agitation. And alcohol has become the cure for those feelings at the end of the day. As time goes on, we just lean on it more and more and more, and substance use disorder starts to kick in. When our drinking habits get out of hand in that way, we can start to experience this compulsive need to drink, this reliance on the substance, and we struggle to stay in control. That causes all sorts of mental challenges because we're so used to having control in our lives and to having the willpower not to do things or the willpower to do certain things. And alcohol seems to be the one thing that we can't control, despite the negative consequences that it might be having on our life. The risk factor for developing mental health issues like depression and anxiety is significant. Studies show that people with mental illness in the first place are more likely to use alcohol as a way to self-medicate, but also people that have not experienced mental health issues may go on to experience them as a result of their drinking. So it's a multifaceted, complex relationship between alcohol and mental health, and one that is a result of a vast amount of chemical interactions that happen in the brain over time that lead to changes in the brain that can lead to ongoing mental health challenges. In short, alcohol does affect our brain chemistry. It interferes with the way our neurons communicate with each other, and specifically it enhances the effects of GABA, which is the neurotransmitter that's responsible for slowing down our brains. This is why we can be slurred in our speech, not controlled with our movements, and feeling completely zonked out when we're drinking. There's also dopamine, which is the neurotransmitter that's responsible for incentive seeking and motivation, and that plays a significant role as it's released in the brain when we drink. What dopamine does is provide a strong reminder of the pleasurable experience that we get in those first few minutes of drinking, and it relays that to our memory bank that this experience feels good and that we should keep repeating it, especially when we're not feeling at our best. Over a period of time, this regular and excessive drinking can lead to an imbalance in our brain chemistry. This is the imbalance that contributes to ongoing mental health problems. For example, it can ultimately lead to a decrease in serotonin, and serotonin is the neurotransmitter associated with feelings of happiness and well-being. Of course, if we become low in serotonin, our chances of experiencing a more depressed mood are much more likely. So whilst alcohol can temporarily reduce our feelings of stress and anxiety, in the long term, excessive drinking just makes it worse, because we create imbalance in our brain chemistry that is proven to contribute to the development of serious mental health issues, from stress, anxiety, depression, and even panic disorder. In summary, the things we are trying to relieve with alcohol are all caused by the very substance we use to relieve them. This is why so many of us get stuck in what is a seemingly unbreakable cycle of drinking. We feel better briefly, then we feel worse, so we reach for a drink to feel better again, and round we go. There is no long-term relief that can be gained from drinking, but there is certainly long-term repercussions if we continue to drink excessively and ignore our mental health. When we're stuck in this horrendous cycle of dealing with mental health challenges, using alcohol to relieve them, the issues getting worse, and so going back to alcohol to try and fix them, it's exhausting because there is no end to this cycle. It just keeps getting worse and worse, and we end up wondering firstly how on earth we got stuck, and then how on earth we're going to escape this cycle. The important thing at this point in time, if you're struggling with something like this, is to make the connection. Alcohol, far from relieving your stress and anxiety, is actually one of the main causes of it. And I know it's hard to imagine that something that provides you with short-term relief is actually the culprit. But as I've mentioned, as our brains change over years of drinking, we can become seriously reliant on it, sometimes just to feel normal. Once we understand and accept that short-term solutions to our stress and anxiety and low mood only make the problems worse, we can start to see and hopefully start to believe that we don't have to live this way. I say this with absolute certainty because I've experienced this myself. I was seriously stuck for quite a long period of time and I couldn't see a way out. In my own experience, once I removed alcohol, I definitely felt worse, but it only lasted a short period of time. I did have to go through about 7 to 10 days of feeling pretty average, but after that, the physiological dependency wanes and the brain starts to heal. As the weeks passed, my brain started to feel better, my moods started to lift, and slowly but surely the feelings of stress and anxiety and low mood became more sporadic and a lot less intense. I can tell you now it was such a relief to escape from what seemed like an impossible cycle of highs and lows. I can now say that my brain chemistry is balanced, at least I hope it's balanced, it feels like it's balanced, and it works as nature intended. And of course, I still experience stress and I get anxious from times and I feel down at times. But now that the chemicals are working in the way they're supposed to, these feelings don't last that long. They're not as intense. And the cool thing is that often I find I can learn something new in those tougher times because I'm fully awake as to why I'm feeling that way. And I have the capacity and the motivation to create the changes that need to be made in order to resolve my issues.
James Swanwick here. Just a quick interruption to share some of the results that folks have been getting inside of our 90-day stop drinking process as it relates to profession, career, and wealth creation. This is Jeff Salzburn from Minnesota who says, I did an additional deal this month. This is Gaetano from Massachusetts. I've increased revenue. Susie Vaughan says, I've generated 20% more leads. Joe Worley from Michigan says, I got a promotion. Tim Steele from Pennsylvania says, I've generated more clients and income. And Russell from Australia says, I've saved thousands. So if progressing in your career, profession, business, growing your wealth is a motivation for you to stop drinking, then I invite you to go to alcoholfreelifestyle.com/Project 90. Check out the details about Project 90 and how we may be able to support you to stop drinking for at least 90 days through our process and really drive your professional life. Okay, back to the show.
For so long, I was numbing myself to escape from my feelings, and that's no way to experience life. I believe we're designed to be present, to experience everything so that we can learn, grow, and evolve into the best version of ourselves we can be for ourselves, but also for the people that we love, those people that we are surrounded by in life who really do deserve the best of us. You could say that living in a cycle of mental highs and lows is a bit like walking through life half asleep. And that's how I felt. I was filled with uncertainty and I was attached to what I now see as a false refuge in a way, of this unreliable and destructive substance that was only making me feel worse. I was stuck in fear and shame, and I didn't realise that a life filled with joy and meaning was possible for me. Thankfully, I managed to find a way to escape. And in order to do that, I first had to accept that drinking was making everything worse. It wasn't solving any problems. It wasn't helping me in any way. It was just making everything worse. And that the only way that I really could deal with my mental health challenges effectively and in the long term was to give myself the chance to discover if alcohol was the cause or simply an effect of deeper issues that I needed to address if I really wanted to live life to the full. In the end, it was a bit of a combination of the two, but we can't fix or deal with what we can't see. And when we're drinking, we can't see. We can't see clearly. We're in avoidance. It's a cliche, I know, but life is short and I believe it's meant to be enjoyed and lived to the full. My personal experience and my experience working with clients in the Alcohol-Free Lifestyle program shows me that we have no idea what's possible unless we really give ourselves a chance. Since I've removed alcohol, my life has changed on so many levels, from a general sense of peace in my day to increased self-respect, my memory. I never knew I could have such a great memory. I remember so many things now, which is a significant difference to when I was drinking. And all the benefits that I experienced that just cycle through and surprise me every day. The clarity, the purpose, the drive, the productivity. And I think most importantly, for me, it is about really liking who I am and being comfortable in my own skin. And that's taken time and work. But I do believe that nothing really good for us is what we would call easy. But therein lies the joy. When we get a challenge and we rise to that challenge and we overcome that challenge, we find new depths of ourselves that we can draw into for other things. We find new self-respect for ourselves, higher self-esteem. We find out new things that we might want to do in life, or we go back to things that we used to love that we've let go. And the mental health challenges that we've experienced when we were drinking become fuel, because we remember how terrible we felt. We remember the lows, and they remind us that we really don't want to go back down that path. It's certainly how it works for me anyway. In the AFL program, people have found extraordinary shifts in how they feel about themselves, in how they experience their mental health challenges, how they overcome challenges in life in general with more resilience, clarity, peace of mind, self-respect, all of those wonderful byproducts of removing what is essentially a poison from their daily habits. So in summary, alcohol affects our brain chemistry in such a way that it can exacerbate or create significant mental health issues like anxiety and depression. And let's not forget that alcohol is a highly addictive substance. So if we're relying on it when we're vulnerable, the chances are that we're going to become attached to it way more quickly than if we're simply using it a couple of times a week at the pub to hang out with some friends. So the question that I invite you to ask yourself is, are you using alcohol to treat the problem that it is potentially causing? Are you turning to alcohol to relieve your stress, your anxiety, or your low mood? If you are, you're not alone. And there's no need to feel any shame around that. It's really, really common. But the opportunity now is to be more educated about how this substance is affecting your own unique, incredibly complex and incredibly fascinating brain. And you have the opportunity to give your brain what it really needs, which is a break from all these artificial bursts of chemicals that over time will start to destroy the thing that we rely on in order to live fully and vibrantly in this world. The opportunity is to get to the place where you feel that it's worth giving it a try. It's worth seeing if maybe removing alcohol is the one thing that's going to make the biggest difference to your experience of life, and also for those around you. As a brief side note, my husband quit alcohol 50 days ago now, and the change in his mood and his approach to life has blown me away. It's almost like I got my husband back, the person that I first met. And interestingly, he said that about me when I quit. He said, "Oh, it's like my wife has come back." So fundamentally, alcohol changes who we are. It takes away our essence. It takes away our unique self, the one that is meant to be out in the world, doing cool stuff and having fun and being present and being joyful. And when we're stuck, we just play small, and we live in this kind of bubble where we're thinking about drinking or we're thinking about how we shouldn't be drinking, or we're thinking about when we should be drinking, and we're stuck in this mental gymnastics that is exhausting and is taking away valuable brain space that could be used for creation, for doing really important things in the world, like being a wonderful parent, friend, partner. If you are or feel that you are struggling with depression, then I invite you to seek professional help with a healthcare provider. Depression is a tricky state because we know what we quote unquote should do, but we don't have the drive or the motivation to do it. But I can speak from many, many years of experience, and it's just taking one small action that can make all of the difference. And also making sure that you are, as much as possible, being kind to yourself and taking care of yourself. So that's the end of this episode, and I invite you to visit the links in the description of this podcast, where there are a number of free resources, or you can choose to book a call with James or Victoria or myself on what it might mean for you if you wanted to join the Project 90 program. Whatever you decide to do, please know that you're not alone. Mental health issues are rife in our society, and it's up to us as individuals to take action. Unfortunately, nobody can solve that problem for you, but there is help and there is hope. Thank you so much for listening today, and I look forward to seeing you on another episode.
Hi there, this is James Swanwick. Thank you so much for listening to the show. I would be so grateful if you would leave a review. That will help us climb the rankings and get our show exposed to so many more people who could really benefit from the content. You can do that by going into Apple Podcasts, rating the show, writing a little one-sentence summary, and posting it. That would be so amazing. Thank you. Likewise, if you would like to schedule a 15-minute exploratory call and apply for our Project 90 program, then you can do so by going to alcoholfreelifestyle.com/project90. If you'd like to get the free guide, that is the Alcohol Freedom Formula Guide, you can go to alcoholfreelifestyle.com/guide. Our YouTube channel is at alcoholfreelifestyle.com/YouTube. You can follow me on Instagram and TikTok at @JamesSwanwick. Thank you so much for listening. We so appreciate you, and we'll catch you on the next one.